Welcome to the Voices of LTCI, presented by the Helper Bees. This is a podcast about the industry that's shaping the way millions of older adults are aging, focusing on stories from those who got us here and those who are carrying us forward. These are the Voices of LTCI.
Hey everybody, I'm Shar. I'm CEO of the Helper Bees, here with another episode of Voices of Long-Term Care Insurance. Very excited to have Dave Ramsey, who's president and CEO of Continental General Insurance. We're both locals, so we're both in Austin in his beautiful office here. Dave, thank you for having us, and thank you really for being on the podcast.
Well, thanks for making the trip over, Char. Really excited to be here today.
So always open with the first question, and we'll take it from there. How did you get your start in long-term care insurance?
Yeah, so for me, kind of like you, I consider myself, relatively speaking, a long-term care newbie, even though, you've been, or I've been around maybe a few years before you did. But I like to differentiate that I was not around back in the 80s and 90s. Yep. when all of the challenges that we're now dealing with kind of came about. But I'm quick to say that I'm certain, as I've gotten more familiar with the industry, that if I had been around back then, I would have fallen into the same traps, made the same errors that the other actuaries made. So no judgment there by any means. But I'm an actuary by training, and I've been in this, I've been an actuary for 30 years. Started my career back at One America, who I know is an active player in long-term care, especially in the hybrid space. But that came about there well after I was gone. So I can't claim that as my first intro into long-term care. My first exposure to long-term care was actually here in Austin, where I started off at a boutique actuarial consulting firm. Oh, right. And so a couple of our clients, one being Continental General, where I'm at today, we did a lot of actuarial work for Continental General, and then who obviously has long-term care block. And then another big client of ours was the New York Department of Financial Services, where we did a lot of statutory financial exam work for all the major New York domestics, which a lot of those have long-term care blocks. So, the Genworth New York company, as an example, we were in there really digging into those blocks, several years ago. So that was kind of my first exposure to long-term care. And then after kind of burning out a bit in actual consulting, I had young kids at the time. I had done that gig long enough. I was looking for something a little bit more stable. I had an actuary once, chief actuary, tell me that at a small company, he took that job just because he wanted just to hit singles. He wasn't looking to hit home runs. That always kind of resonated with me for some reason. So I thought, my kids are getting older, and I'm tired of working all these hours. This opportunity here at Continental General came up to be a chief actuary of a closed block. Yeah. It sounded like, okay, maybe that's be hitting singles. Don't have to deal with distributors and marketing, and so I made the jump over here, and be careful what you ask for, because I think it was only a few months later that the company got sold, and here we are several years down the road, and long-term care is definitely not a sleepy product, but when I joined Continental General, we had 70 employees. We're 3 times that size now. We just launched a TPA. We've done two significant long-term care acquisitions since my time. So it's definitely not just sitting around hitting singles like I thought I was signing up for, but it's been great. Really excited where I'm at. So.
I mean, that's an interesting trajectory, coming in thinking that it would be really safe job or role. Since we've known each other, what you've been able to do at Continental General and been able to really reframe who you guys are out in the market. You just hit on 2 that I want to dive a little bit deeper into, but going out there to become a TPA, and tell me a little bit more about that here in a second. But as you start to diversify your strategy into acquisitions of blocks, what have you learned along the way of now becoming a really innovative and forward-thinking company? Not that y'all weren't before, but I'm taking your words, but as a single, now you guys are going, I presume, for a lot more than that.
Yeah, no, it's been really exciting to see the change here at the company. I mean, you really have to keep up on the technology. I like to say the TPA side of things is new for us. We've got a great owner who comes in with brings a lot of good ideas, and as he really assessed our company and identified what our strengths were, looking for new revenue streams. There's not a lot of long-term care servicers out there, and so we did the administration of our own block, and we thought, well, we ought to, why can't we just leverage that and do this for other blocks? And started down that path, that journey a while ago. It takes a while to get licensed in all the states, but we've just got the last state relatively recently. But it's one thing, for so many years we just administered our own policies, and we were good at that. But it's a whole different ballgame when you kind of turn the sign on that we're open for business, and you're actually servicing for other clients. And so it just brings a whole different mindset for the team. That we've got to, not that we were necessarily sleepy before, but it just kind of takes you to a whole nother level when you're so many years you've just been doing your 60,000 policies, and now you're opening up the door to servicing other clients.
So that's an important point. Is that one where you differentiate yourselves from others, which is, hey, you guys came at it from a carrier, servicing your own customers over the years, learned a lot of really good things about how to communicate with the customer. Now you're going to apply that to other blocks. There's a different responsibility associated with that, but is that one of your big differentiators, or are there more?
Exactly. I mean, that we benefit so much for the many years of administering our own policies and the lessons learned, and we can demonstrate that to any prospective clients that look what we've done. And so versus a startup or somebody that's kind of dabbling in this business is so complex. There's so many moving pieces. You can't just jump in and dabble in it. You have to be able to prove out that you've been able to do it successfully. And and also the TPA aspect also really brings us some differentiation when we're out there looking at acquiring other blocks, because that's another path that we're on to grow. There's so many long-term care blocks out there that are sitting at companies where it's not core, and those companies are meeting with interested parties frequently, and when they're trying to decide whether or not to do something with their block and send that away to somebody else, I think it's important to them, to most of them anyway, that they would be sending their policies to a company that's been doing this for several years versus somebody that's just starting off. So it opens some doors and generates more discussions having our TPA than when we didn't have the TPA.
Yeah. And you've already got a few early wins, right? I know you probably can't talk about it a lot, but any teasers that you can give us?
Yeah, no, I think on the TPA side so far, right now we just got that last license, so we're kind of moving into it strategically. We're trying to be disciplined here, as many know. Doing a big conversion of a long-term care block, that's not something you're going to do in a 2-month period. That's usually, you're talking 9-12 months. And so we are interested in doing those things. But starting off, some of the things right out of the gate have been things like leveraging our claims team to do claims audits for other companies that are looking for a second, third set of eyes to come in and do claim audits. And that's that's right up their alley, and what the group over there has been doing for years and years. And not a huge project, not a big heavy lift. So we've got some wins there. It helps develop some of those relationships with some of those carriers. And then we've got a couple real opportunities. One is signed, and one we think is close to signing. We'll call them InsurTech opportunities, where again, this is ideal out of the gate for us as a TPA, because this isn't a conversion of a block. This is somebody that's launching into the market for the first time. Not, there may be a long-term care component to it, but it doesn't have to be long-term care. But these are things that are only going to grow as they sell products, so that we can grow along with them. And those are just perfect opportunities for us here in our early stages as a TPA.
That's great. Well, usually I ask guests, what do you like about our long-term care insurance industry? I'm going to ask you that question. I'm going to frame it a little bit differently because of something else you had mentioned before, which is around the acquisitions of blocks. So if you could answer it, like, what do you like about our industry? Because we have now verifiable facts that you guys obviously are bullish on it if you're going and acquiring other blocks out there. But what what do you see out there in particular about our industry? It could be a personal thing, or it could be something specifically around the blocks that you bought.
Yeah, a couple things. I'll hit the personal side of things first. I was going to maybe say this early on when as far as what attracted me to this business, I like to say long-term care is kind of like the Turducken of insurance products, right? So, it's got a component of health insurance, it's got a component of life insurance, and there's clearly an annuity component to it. And given my background as an actuary, I've worked in several, when I was inside companies, I worked in different departments on different products. Working at a small actuarial consulting firm, you kind of had to be a jack of all trades and was exposed to all kinds of different products. So it really fit my background and attracted me to the market, given that it was such a diverse product with so many different moving parts and complexities. So from a personal standpoint, that's what attracted me to it, even though it has been such a challenging market. As far as from a Continental General perspective and why we're bullish on it, again, we see what we've been able to do, with our own block and with our acquisitions. One of them is early, so we can't declare victory yet. The one that we did back in 2018, the Humana acquisition, again, I'm not naive enough to declare that one victory yet, because this business is very cyclical and very volatile. But in the 4 or 5 years that we've had the business, it's performed very well for us, and so we've been able to see what we can do with those blocks, and just in all the discussions and opportunities that we've had talking to all these carriers that would really like to exit the market. We just see similar opportunities there, even though every block is different, to what we've done with Humana and with the Anthem block. So that's and all of the. I know we're going to get to this, but we're definitely excited about the things we're seeing on the wellness front, and that creates a whole nother another dynamic as to why we're bullish.
Okay, so we talked about bullishness on the industry, yours personally, as well as at Continental General Insurance. Nobody's ever referred to it in terms of poultry, but I think it's a great
Couldn't help
metaphor. But thinking back on your career, is there any other milestone or particular event that stands out to you?
Yeah. Probably got a couple here. I'll give one that's a little dated, and one that's very recent. So I'll think back to when I started here at Continental General. I was the chief actuary. Back in 2019 was when I was given the opportunity to early 2019 to become the CEO. And I'd only been in that position for it couldn't have been more than 6 weeks. And we, at the time, were using external counsel for all of our local regulatory counsel for working with the Department of Insurance. And we are the only domestic long-term care company here in Texas. So because of that, we get a lot of attention from the Texas Department of Insurance. And I got a call one day. I just got tipped off by somebody that the Texas Department of Insurance is putting you into supervision, and they are sending a caravan of people to your offices to kind of take over your company. And wow. You can imagine what's racing through my mind, right? And of course, I'm like, everything's fine as far as I knew. We're in good financial shape. Didn't have any issues regulatory wise. What could be happening? So all the things. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? All those thoughts start coming to mind, right? And calling the chief actuary, the CFO, who were next to. We're just sitting around the table, just sitting there waiting for the department to show up. And I kid you not, 10 minutes later, the phone rings, and she says, "Oh, my contact called me back and said it was actually one of my other clients. It wasn't even you guys." And it was like, so that was obviously I'll never forget that. And so that always jumps to mind as one of those memorable moments that really gets you to think about where you're at. But even though I was confident that everything was fine, that was kind of one of those seminal moments that really get you to think. The other thing I'll mention, it's obviously very fresh and definitely a sad story, but we've been doing the chief actuary and our pricing actuary and myself. We've been, as many companies do, we've been going around over the last several months, meeting with a lot of the commissioners, a lot of the insurance departments, with a couple of different primary focus is to talk to them about rate increase filing that we've got in front of them, and talk about the needs and what the justification is there. And then we've been spending a lot of time educating them on what we're doing specifically in the wellness space and with our various pilot programs, which they're all very interested in, and most of them are excited about that. So we've been going state by state to talk to them, and we surprisingly, one of our largest states is actually Hawaii. So I joke that the three of us kind of took the bullet and made the trip to Hawaii here recently to meet with the Department of Insurance just a few weeks ago to talk about a big filing that we had in front of them in our wellness programs. And I don't think I'll ever forget this, because I'm sure many of you have seen what's happened in Maui. But we were right there on Front Street at one of the restaurants that was lost in the fire just a couple weeks ago. So it's just kind of in shock. It's very surreal having just been at a place like that when something terrible like that happens. So my heart goes out to what those people are dealing with.
As is ours. I mean, it's a good lesson in timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, staying with that theme, though, of lessons, I mean, it's interesting, your career trajectory within long-term care insurance, starting out as a consultant, which is like your first sort of entrance into that, consulting with the very company that, fast forward a few years, you become CEO of. A lot of listeners are in their careers, looking at career advice. Do you have anything that you'd give out, words of wisdom, or a particular maxims that you've thought about over your career that you want to impart on others?
This is trite, but surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, which is easy thing for me to do. But I think one thing I'll reference that I've been blessed with. So again, I'll refer back to what we're privately held. Really value our owner and the support that he gives to us, and what he's brought to our employees and to our policyholders, and to me personally. And I still remember when I first started working with him a few years ago, just within those first few weeks, he is a Harvard alum. And, in that discussion, we started talking. He said, "Dave, I really want you to go. Harvard has this great executive education course. And I'd really like to send you to that." So, of course, a couple things run through your mind, right? One, I'm honored. It sounds like a really cool thing. But then I'm also thinking, well, how bad does he think I am that he's got to go send me to school for all this time? So anyway, I think that the lesson here, and I want to talk about that experience a little bit, is just always challenge yourself. Always, you're never too old to learn. Go out of your comfort zone. But this course that I'm going through right now has just been life-changing, and it's a program where you go for 3 solid weeks for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
And so I went last fall. I'm getting ready to go, so it's fresh in my mind. I'm getting ready to go. I'll be there all the last 3 weeks of September. But it's very intense, and it's very given his connections, he was able to get me in. But it's kind of an exclusive club. That the 100 folks that are in this are just so impressive. They've accomplished so much. So just being around these people for 3 solid weeks. I mean, most of these people have started businesses from the ground up and sold them, and now they're kind of trying to figure out what to do next. Yeah. I mean, there's famous people, like entertainers, lead singers of bands that you would know if I said your name. So it's so humbling and eye-opening. These people that have been so successful would put themselves through this intensive course. But it's 3 solid weeks of, I live in a dorm. I've got three kids in college right now, so they think it's hilarious that I'm having to spend 3 weeks in a dorm. I don't have a roommate. I do get my own room, but I send pictures back home to my kids, and they're like, "Your room is smaller than ours," at college. So they think that's hilarious. But it really has been just a life-changing experience. I'm really looking forward. I'm only partially baked. I keep telling the team here, because you do have to go through all 3 units before you really get the solid education. But I've just learned so much from that, and made some great connections. Definitely a fish out of water. I gave some examples of some of the types of people that are there. So then when you go around the circle and you come up to me, and I'm an actuary that runs runs a long-term care insurance company that doesn't really sell anything. Last year we didn't have the TPA. You kind of feel a little out of place, but it challenges you, just grown a lot. And I think, the probably the biggest takeaway so far in this from that course has been just the importance of middle managers. And so that was something that I came back, and in the 10 months since I've been back, that I've really tried to be intentional about a meeting one-on-one with our middle managers. And so much gets filtered, as I've learned, both directions, whether it's me to their direct supervisors or up to me, that I didn't realize, and so I kind of went on this journey for it took me 3 months to actually meet with each one of these individuals one-on-one for about an hour, and just you got to know them more, learn about them personally, and just find out, what's going on in their day to day. And they're the ones that are really, in the
Yeah.
trenches. And so you can learn so much about your company when you do that exercise, even though it was, a lot of work. They seem to really appreciate it. I'll probably do another cycle when I get back with that same group. But I learned so much about our company by going through that exercise. So.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that's a really, really important lesson. I've always known you to be a genuine and humble guy too. Being able to say, I can't imagine the thought process. You just outlined two of them at the outset of like, oh wow, that's really awesome. Man, do I really need it?
Yeah.
And having these conflicting views, and then saying, you know what? No, we all could be better. We all could learn more. Identifying that and going through this really exclusive programs and seeing other like-minded people who probably went through the same thing, right? Or
Yeah.
even if they're at the top of their industry, being able to say, there's more I need to learn because maybe I'm on top of this industry, but what
Right.
others? And I can see a direct parallel between where you and Mike have taken Continental, where before, I mean, that parallel follows, right? Where you guys were solid, but now you're branching out and taking what you've learned and innovating.
Yep.
So kudos to you to not only, excuse me, not only to identify that core value, but live it.
Yeah. It's intense. It's been great. I'm looking forward to going back. But it's yeah, you don't come home at all. Classes, they give
Wow.
you Sundays off, but I hadn't had any formal education since I graduated college, a long time ago. So it's been great. It's been great. Looking forward to going back. So.
Yeah. There's some good advice out there for leaders that say, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and going back to school, being away from your family. Just thinking about going to class right now makes me very uncomfortable. So like, again,
Yep.
that's really interesting. Staying with the theme of innovation though, where do you see now, you guys are branching out. I know you guys are looking at other blocks out there. I'm sure bringing a culture of innovation it's probably not your first value prop, but I'm sure it's there on the page. What areas of innovation particularly are you most excited about in our industry?
Yeah, so the wellness initiatives, both pre-claim and post-claim. We're not historically we haven't necessarily been cutting edge, but I'd like to say we're fast followers. So it didn't take us long to kind of jump into that game, and so we're pretty deep in to some pilots, as you know, and on the wellness side. And looking at others, and that's something that we're really really excited about. We're too early in that journey to to declare victory, but we've seen what the success that other companies have had, and we're really happy with the ones that we have launched and are starting to launch. How those are kind of coming together, and not just from a business Continental general perspective, but even just from the impact we're expecting it's going to have and believe it's going to have on our policyholders.
Yeah.
Just being able to provide them with tools and resources that allow them to age in place and to stay at home. It's refreshing. Again, I know so many have said this, but being able to have that interaction that isn't just here's a rate increase, here's actually another way, a different way that we're trying to help solve this problem. And so that's we've got obviously some hills to climb there, some relationship repair to do, but really seeing even here in the early stages some wins. And I think for us, as we do have an appetite to take on more of these blocks that are out there, that again it's a little too early for us to put a dollar amount just yet, but we believe as we move forward, some of the other companies that just have kind of moved on from long-term care. It's just there. They
Yeah.
own it. They kind of view it as as a nuisance. If we can, we're the one that we're willing to go in and do that work and take those on and apply some of these wellness programs to it. It just kind of, shrinks that bid-ask spread and gives us some opportunity. So that's one area. I think we've got a lot of energy around data and building out tools, identifying tools, forming teams, finding expertise, that skill set. Again, because that's part of what has caused this problem is just the newness. Even though it's been around forever, long-term care is still, relative to other insurance products, it's still relatively new. And so, my actuary is coming out in me here, but the more years that go by here, the more we learn, the more we know, the more data that's available, and we're just trying to, where there's a lot of companies just, for various reasons have had to move on. We have the luxury having, again, privately held by an owner that's in it for the long term. We have the appetite to, do the work and invest the money that it's going to take to do what we think and what we've been able to prove to turn these blocks around.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thanks for being on the episode. Really, thank you for being an inspirational leader, imparting lessons of being able to go be a lifelong learner, because you never know, the company you're consulting for, you might take over as CEO and lead it one day. Make sure that you're prepared. Appreciate what you're doing for the industry as well. It's rare to see individuals go out there and buy blocks and spool up TPAs. You've done that all within the last year or two. So appreciate your leadership. And again, thank you for being on the episode.
Great. Well, this is great. Really appreciate you pulling this together. So I think it's really, in addition to the services that the Helper Bees provides, things like this and your active engagement in the long-term care communities has really been a breath of fresh air, and we all appreciate that. And it's great that you just live down the road from me, so that's very convenient.
Easy trip.
So,
Yeah, that's right. Great.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.